Khabib says he will come back for two reasons. Okay, one or the other. Either the money is ridiculously big and he's offered a $100 million contract or fight, or there's something competitive that stands out to him that he wants to come back to. So the quote or the translation that I have is, if they offer me $100 million, then I'll have a problem in front of me. And he said that as with a little smirk on his face to indicate basically not necessarily $100 million is what his target money is. He just wants a really, really big payday. So especially considering all the things that he's getting into, he just got into an MMA promotions. He's opening up gyms, university. He's doing all these things. These things need money, right? Not necessarily just to fund them, but also to start that journey, to make those connections, to build up to the eventual goals that he has set out for himself and in his region and his country, and as well like other countries in the Middle What he was asked about Conor versus Poirier, he comes back and says, I choked both of them, so what? No sporting interest in that fight. So we covered the first part about the money situation. So let's say he could probably get maybe like $40-50 million for the fight. Maybe he'll come back. Plausibility, I don't know if he'll get he dictates that much money.
I mean, let's be honest though, listen, he's a sick fighter, but Dana White's not going to pay $50 million, you know? $50 million is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. I don't know if the UFC would go out and do that at the moment.
It would have to be a mega fight, right? With a hammer like Conor and like GSP maybe.
Yeah, I think it would be Conor. But the second aspect where he said that if there's something competitive, he was asked about Tony because he kind of wrote off Conor and Poirier. He said, if Tony wins, we'll see. Let him win first. His last fight, he was destroyed by Gaethje. I lost interest after the Gaethje fight. Let him win first. That's very, very interesting. So Tony Ferguson was on the hottest of hot streaks before he faced Justin Gaethje. He had that, I don't know if the hype is still real for you between Khabib and Tony fight, but for me, I still want to see that fight regardless.
I mean, I would love to see it, but after that fight against, I don't know, man. It was just pure.
The reason why
pure
I
destruction,
say,
you know, like
the reason why I say that is because in MMA, it's very, very important that you don't do MMA math, right? So you don't say this guy beat this guy, and so Khabib beat Gaethje and Gaethje beat Tony, so therefore Khabib beats Tony, right? It doesn't work like that because of the nature of MMA. It's all about matchups, similar to all the other sports too, but it's all about matchups. Gaethje is a stand-up fighter who doesn't really have the best grappling, is a decent wrestler in terms of defensively, but Tony on the other hand is a very good stand-up fighter and a supremely good grappler, right? Both on the ground and takedowns and wrestling in general. So matchup-wise, for me, in my head, I still want to see that. And the hype, of course, it goes down a little bit because he lost to Gaethje, but I definitely want to see that fight. And I can tell from my impression from what Khabib is saying is that he's still interested in that fight. He just needs to see Tony prove himself and validate that, hey, that fight was just a one-off situation. It happens, right?
Yeah.
I came off 2 weight cuts in a row. I got a new opponent very, very quickly. He was a completely different style than Khabib was, he was training for the entire time. The game plan wasn't there. And Gaethje just had a very, very good coming out party.
Yeah. So I think what should happen is that Tony Ferguson should, of course, face Oliveira, right? So
yeah,
that's it.
So that takes it to the next point. So
yeah.
Tony versus Oliveira. Hopefully, pray before you go to sleep that it happens, and it's scheduled for December 12th.
It's an amazing card.
It's scheduled for December 12th.
Yeah.
This fight, I think, has huge implications on whether or not Khabib comes back. If on December 12th we see the classic Tony comeback where he completely like destroys Oliveira. Doesn't even need to submit him, right? Just doctor stoppage, if anything. He completely stops him, wins that fight. We can see potentially Khabib saying, you know what? I want that fight.
That's fight not going to be enough for Khabib. That's not going to be enough. I think he has to face Oliveira, and then either he has to fight Poirier or Conor. And then I think he'll fight against Khabib.
Yeah, I don't know. It maybe just because of the timing wise, he wants him to fight another one, but I could see him facing Tony making a call out and saying, "Hey Khabib, come back. I need to fight you. We have unfinished business." I could see Khabib saying, "You know what? Let's do it." Right? And that could probably do about like 600,000, 700,000 pay-per-view buys.
But is that big enough for Khabib? You know, if he wants the big money.
Competitively, he's always talked, and his father's always talked about Tony being the toughest challenge, right? On paper, right? He said, or I forget the exact quotes, but they are very firm on the idea that the concept that Tony is the toughest challenge. Tony is a formidable opponent and something that Khabib hasn't really faced before in his other opponents. All his opponents that he's faced and beat recently and in the past all have different styles, but they don't have the style that Tony has. So the best person on the ground that Khabib has faced is who? Dustin Poirier? Jiu-jitsu wise?
Yeah.
Like who's out there?
But
especially offensive jiu-jitsu or offensive on the back.
But it's I don't know. Like you might raise some eyebrows though, because after his fight against Gaethje, he had that post-retirement speech, right? I don't really know if he should come back. You know, it might ruin his name a little bit. But
no, don't worry. MMA is completely different than any other sport. Names, people don't care. People went through the whole retirement thing. People soaked it in and took in the entire story as a whole. If he comes back, if Tony wins impressively and then Khabib says, you know what, UFC, let's make that fight, I think it will be even bigger now. People will be like, no way, he's back, let's go, right? They'll be very, very excited. So the next step in this, after the Tony, say Tony and Oliveira have their fight, the next thing in the story would be Khabib is set to meet Dana White on January 23rd. So I believe it's for his cousin Umair's fight. So Khabib will be attending that fight, and Dana will obviously be there as well. So I think Khabib is going to go into there, and Dana's probably under the impression as well that he's going to come and talk to him about the EFC. He's going to talk about the lightweight title. He's going to talk about his future, and hopefully the Tony fight. Maybe talking about, hey, you saw Tony? He completely destroyed him. Do you want that fight? Maybe Khabib comes back and says, you know what? Let's do it, Dana. Let's do it after Ramadan, maybe in July, September, around that area.
Yeah.
Maybe around that time. But Khabib also said that when he meets Dana on the 23rd, he thinks that Dana will strip him of the title. So it could be very interesting. If Tony loses and Khabib goes and meets Dana White on the 23rd, I think he would strip him. He just basically
goes. And Conor fights in January, right?
Yeah, he fights in January. I think Dana.
He'd be stripped before that.
If Tony loses, Khabib's gonna go to Dana and be like, "Listen, brother, who's left? Who's left? There's Tony. He just lost. Conor and Poirier. I choked them both out. Gaethje, I beat him. Like, who's left?
Bring me GSP, brother. Give me Mayweather.
Maybe you'll have that discussion too. But we'll see. Let's wait until the press conference after the January 23rd card. So I don't know if you watch those press conferences where Dana White comes out and talks. I guarantee you somebody's gonna ask, "Hey, have you talked to Khabib? What happened? Blah 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 blah," and we'll get some sort of news.